Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 4 of Pretty Petty Politics. It has been a long time. I haven't seen you all since earlier this year, and every month, has felt like a year. But I'm excited to be back for season 4 of Pretty Petty Politics. So let's talk a little bit about how this season is going to go. This season, we're going to come to you twice a week. We'll be with you on Mondays and Wednesdays at 4:30. On Mondays, we'll deal with local issues. And on Wednesdays, we'll deal with national issues. So today, I'm really excited about our guest. He is an extraordinary political strategist and consultant. And we will delve into the fight to flip the Senate. All right. So sit back, relax, begin to share this, tell your friends and your family about it, and let's talk about how we're going to flip the Senate. So without further delay, I would like to introduce you to our guest today, Mr. Trey Daniels. Hi, Trey.
Hey, how are you? I'm doing well.
Good. I'm good. So Trey is a political consultant and political strategist. He is with the Daniels Group, president and founder of the Daniels Group, I might say. But he is well known throughout the country for his political strategy and consultation. And so I wanted to invite Trey to join us to talk about flipping the Senate. But I got to do the traditional thing that we do on Pretty Petty Politics. So Trey, every time we have a guest, the very first question is, tell us about the first time you voted.
The very first time I voted, wow, I don't get that question that often. I would say I was in high school from Mississippi. I think we went together as a family. Better yet, I went with my first cousin, Crystal and Precious Martin. And it was just a local election that I voted in. I was proud to vote in that election. And that's one of the things that you really look forward to. So I was in high school, senior in high school, I believe. And it was just a great experience, and I'll never forget it. And I voted, I'm certain, in almost every election since then.
Oh, wow. So that means you've been voting for like 10 years because you can't be that old.
Well, I know, right? But no, actually, I got that from my grandfather, actually. He lived to be 105 years old, and he was brought up in Oxford, Mississippi. And I can remember him, before he died, he told me a few things. And voting was one of the things that he told me 5 things, and voting was one of those things. And when he was born in 1899, believe it or not. And so when Americans finally received the vote, he voted in every election. So it's one of those things that you take from your lineage that you try to be committed to make sure, because folks didn't always have those opportunities.
Right. I can appreciate that. And I can appreciate the strength as a Black man to lead in that charge. And I'm sure his strength helped inspire your family to continue that legacy of voting leadership. Definitely. Right. Okay. Well, thank you once again for joining us today. So let's jump to it. What are your thoughts about it? Yeah, let's start off. What are your thoughts about November? This is a big political year. I don't remember. I can't recall a midterm election this exciting. So what are your thoughts around November?
It's presidential election year. I tell you, I really like to stay behind the scenes. I don't like doing a lot of interviews, but this year, you always hear politicians say, well, every year is a very important election year, or if you don't go vote this year, such and such may happen. But this year, in 2020, I think is really the year that we have to be cognizant of what's going on. There's so much tension in the country right now. And so it's very important that everybody come out to vote in this election cycle. So that's why I felt so compelled to come on the show today, because I felt like I had a voice to say to encourage African-American men, especially, to come out and vote. I think on last weekend, I received a poll. The numbers are actually down amongst African-American men. And I just saw a segment from Roland Martin. He tweeted out to Senator Harris and Vice President Biden, said, look, you all need to engage the African-American men. And so this message is definitely for my African-American men that are tuning in right now. Please be aware of what's going on. We really need you all to come out and support.
We really do. This is a really big deal. Well, so we have the the vice presidential debate this evening. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. I know I am. I'm excited about Kamala Harris being, or Senator Kamala Harris and her.
Absolutely. Going to be our VP.
Yes, Madam VP.
Right.
We're going to speak that thing into existence. But let's talk about the Senate. So there are several highly contested Senate seats across the country. I received an email today about Mississippi, your home state, and it's neck and neck. It's very tight there. Tell us about that race and what you expect to see happen there.
Well, before I get into that race, I would like to say, look, I was reading an article last night. 4 years ago, back in 2016, I think we found Secretary Clinton in a similar position with Trump at the same time. She was polling about 12%. And as you saw the polling this morning when you woke up, as the polling came from last week's debate, you look at the president going into the hospital because of the coronavirus. You look at that, you'll see that VP Biden is polling around 14%. I would say 4 years ago, the same numbers were similar. So we cannot get complacent. We cannot be settled in terms of the presidential election. But I will also say that as it comes to these U.S. senatorial elections, God forbid that we are victorious we should be victorious on November 3rd. But if we're not victorious on November 3rd, I think we need to hold on and look at the Senate, because the Senate may end up being our saving grace. We have great opportunities in different senatorial elections around the country. And one in particular that you just spoke about, that is the senatorial election in Mississippi with former Agriculture Secretary Mike Espy and current U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. I was actually involved in that election just 2 years ago, because they had a special election because former Senator Thad Cochran, he resigned and he later passed away. But Mike Espy right now, I saw polling data on yesterday, he's actually up 1 point. He has come a long way. He has, money is the milk and all politics. And so just since the death of Justice Ginsburg, he's been able to raise over $4 million. And so this is a great opportunity for the state of Mississippi to get somebody that they know, somebody has been a good steward to the state of Mississippi, and that's Mike Espy. And so I'm very hopeful in his victory in that particular election.
Okay. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for Secretary Espy in Mississippi?
The greatest challenge that I see for Secretary Espy is in parts in northern Mississippi, you have more rural communities. And so the way the campaigns are nowadays is you don't have the traditional door knocking because of the coronavirus. And so just being able to make sure that you get the word out into rural communities, making sure that traditionally northern Mississippi votes Democrat. Well, it votes Republican. We had a long history of voting Democrat. Recent times, in the last 16 years, it's been leaning Republican. But underneath those Republicans are former Democrats. And so you have folks like Mayor Shelton, Jason Shelton from Tupelo, who's a big supporter of Mike Espy. You have the Brandon Presley, who's a PEC commissioner there in northern Mississippi. So he has a lot of support in northern Mississippi. So I think he will be able to garner support that he needs in northern Mississippi to make up the difference. The last time he ran just 2 years ago, he only lost by 3 points. I think he has the cash on hand. He has the grassroots network. And so I see it actually being a good election night for Secretary Espi.
Okay. Now let's look at, have you caught up with Georgia? Have you paid attention to what's going on down in Georgia? There are two senatorial races there.
Right. You have Reverend Warnock, who's currently running. And I think he's up currently right now. He's up 3 points in the polls, actually. And so you have the base in Atlanta, which I think is going to be turnout. It's going to be fantastic. As you saw the Georgia gubernatorial race with Stacey Abrams, you saw that she came very close. And I think with Reverend Warnock coming right behind that election, you have the Democratic Party who are very interested in those that are swinging, maybe more independent. What's going on in the country right now? Really, those fringe voters, those voters who traditionally vote Republican, that may be independent, I think they're swinging over to the Democratic Party. And so I think that's going to give him the extra boost that he needs to prepare him to a victory. Like I said, right now, he's polling up 3%. And so it is looking pretty good for him, I believe.
Okay. And so Warnock is pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, historic Ebenezer in Atlanta. Yes. And he's challenging the incumbent who was appointed by Georgia's governor. She was appointed to the Senate. I think Purdue resigned. Is that how that happened?
Yeah, Purdue is actually running right now. Let me say a little bit about
against Ossoff. I'm sorry, I'm getting it mixed up.
Election, so that's coming up. That decision to be made in December, where he'll be actually whoever the victor in that particular race be able to actually take the office once they actually win. But the thing about Warnock's race is that you may remember this back earlier this year during 2020, you had some senators that were found of insider trading. And so her husband was one of those persons who were found of doing insider trading. So that is the downside to Miss Kelly Loughlin. So I think that Warnock, with the momentum that they built with Stacey Abrams' race, riding on the back of that coattail, I think he has a great shot. He's a pastor at a well-respected church there in Atlanta, Ebenezer. I have great friends a great friend who's the youth pastor there. And so I know that church, that momentum that he's able to build out of Atlanta and the surrounding area, I think they're going to give him the extra needed boost to be victorious on November 3rd.
Right. Well, I wanted to just talk about Loeffler a little bit, with her husband being, I think he's the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. Right. And he was one of those senators earlier this year where it came out, it was disclosed that, they did some insider trading ahead of this pandemic, or in response to this pandemic, before here in the United States, we really shut down because of the pandemic. And she's also part owner of the Atlanta WNBA team. And those players have vehemently come out against her in full support of Warnock here in this climate. And so that will be one race that I expect to see some interesting numbers come out of. And I'm excited. I hope that seat could be flipped. I don't think Georgia has ever had a Black U.S. senator, if I'm correct. And so,
no, I don't believe so. So this is a great time in our country. With the passing of George Floyd, what's going on, and the president that we have in the White House right now, he's creating so much racial divide and so much political tension. Is really affording these opportunities for African Americans all across the South, and all across the South, even South Carolina. You can look at the Jamie Harrison race with current Senator Lindsey Graham. They had a debate this past Saturday, which I thought was fantastic. Jamie Harrison, he had a great performance. I thought he won that debate. He came out with his plexiglass because of the coronavirus. I mean, it was just fantastic. And he was able to hold Senator Graham accountable to some of the things that he supported in the past. he was also able to hold him accountable to some of the things that he's rubber stamped for President Trump.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
for African Americans, you have great opportunities across the South.
Right. So speaking of South Carolina, Jamie is another one where polling wise, he's doing very relatively well. And because of the population, the demographics of the population in South Carolina, there are a couple of pockets that if he can secure those pockets, he can secure that victory over this incumbent senator, Lindsey Graham, who has been in office for a few terms now. And we know Lindsey Graham. Yeah, so we know Lindsey Graham made the comments back in 2016 when President Obama was looking to make an appointment to the Supreme Court after the death of Justice Scalia. And he said, basically, you can use my words against me. And now people are using those words against him here 4 years later.
Absolutely.
So that's another race to watch, people. The South Carolina race between Jamie Harrison and Senator Lindsey Graham. So we are really paying close attention to that one. What's another one that you're paying attention to, Trey?
Well, actually, I'm paying attention to the race out in Arizona.
Yes.
With the Daniels group, we did a voter registration project with the Peter Damon group out in Arizona. And it was a great thing. And actually, Mark Kelly, who is the husband of Gabby Giffords, who was shot, you all may remember some time ago. He's an astronaut also, but he's actually polling about 9 points ahead. It could be more, about 9 points ahead of his opponent. And McSally, and just last night they had a debate.
I think Trey's a little frozen.
Pardon?
You froze just a little bit.
Yes. So Martha McSally and Mark Kelly had a debate on last night, and she actually performed poorly from the clips that I saw from the debate. And like I said, he's up 9 points, and so that's one race that I'm very excited about, and I think we'll have another senator from Arizona representing the Democratic Party.
Okay. Sounds good to me. So what do you think is going to happen in Kentucky?
Well, I think Mitch McConnell will hold on to it, unfortunately. The last numbers that I saw some numbers from September 12th, and I saw some numbers more recently. The numbers that I saw from September was 16, that Mitch McConnell was up 16 points, and recent numbers had him up by 5 points. But I think all the money that he has access to, I think he's going to be able to hold on to that seat. Although McGrath, she has a lot of finance, a lot of resources, a lot of support for her as well. But I think he may be able to squeak it out, unfortunately. But, the other part of it is, if he does win, he get to see once Democrats take control of the Senate, he would get to see us having our victory lap, and he would have to endure the same thing the headache that he caused to us. And so, you have those senators like Senator Collins out of Maine, who is in a very competitive race with Sarah Gideon, and I, because of her inconsistent voting pattern, I don't think she's going to be successful either.
Okay. All right. And what do you think is going to happen here in Texas? We have MJ Hagar and John Cornyn for battling out for the Lone Star State.
Right. I think, honestly speaking, I think the momentum that Beto created here in Texas when he ran against Ted Cruz, I think that he created a lot of momentum. He raised a lot of money. He set records in terms of the money that he raised at that particular time. Senator Cruz. Fortunately, I don't think that MJ has been able to replicate the same type of momentum and the same type of energy that Beto created back then. And I think that's what was needed in terms of actually being successful in this particular election cycle. although I still remain somewhat hopeful. I'm just, cautiously optimistic that she will perform well, but I don't know if it's enough to actually rise to the occasion and actually be Senator Cornyn. The latest poll numbers that I saw, she was down 5 or 6 points. I don't know if we have enough time for her to actually make up the difference. I think her campaign probably could have did a few things differently in terms of engaging African American men, engaging in the Hispanic community. But hey, it's still time left on the clock. Every day in politics is like a year, so we still have time to see what actually happens.
Okay. And I agree with you there. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. The momentum just isn't there.
No, the energy isn't. Not at all.
It's kind of sticky as we look at how she's doing. It's just I'm
halfway. Right. I'm going to go cast my ballot, but I'm casting my vote for you because I have to vote for the president. So but I'm looking forward to the future. What we may be able to do some great things in Texas in terms of being successful in the U.S. Senate elections.
Okay. And last but not least, we got to take it to Sweet Home Alabama. So Alabama.
Sweet Home Alabama, where you?
No, that's not where I'm from, but that's the phrase, Sweet Home Alabama. But let's consider Alabama. Doug Jones' seat is probably the most endangered seat up for grabs, and he's facing former Auburn football coach Tuberville to keep his seat. What do you think is going to happen to Alabama? Do you think that Doug Jones will retain this seat once again, or do you think has a strong possibility of losing it?
Look, hey, Tommy Tuberville, he was a great coach, but I don't think the world of politics is for him. I think Doug Jones holds this seat. I think he will hold it by a very slim margin, maybe one. If he's lucky, he'll be able to hold it by 2 points. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to squeak it out. And all because of his position. He's been able to in several different occasions, he's been able to walk in step with the Democratic Party. And so I think he's going to be able to be successful. I think this is the year of the Democrat. We have a blue wave that's coming that's extremely large. And so I think most Democrats in competitive races, we have more money. We have raised more money in the U.S. Senate elections than the Republicans. So I think we're looking pretty successful here. If I'm not mistaken, Democrats have, in terms of the U.S. Senate elections, Democrats have raised $327 million in comparison to the Republicans only raising $295 million. So I think we have the cash on hand, we have the messaging on hand, and hey, times the Republicans just fail to respond as it relates to the coronavirus, and so I think that has opened up the opportunities for Democrats to be successful, in particular African that are running all across the South in this upcoming election cycle.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I too think Doug Jones will pull it off. I think it will be because of Black women. Black women got him across the finish line.
Absolutely.
I think that here in Texas, Black women are the leading demographic for voting. So I think Texas will become purple, a bit more purple. So I have a question for you. Do you think that the Democratic Party and grassroots organizations have done enough in Fort Worth to flip that? Because my understanding is if Fort Worth can flip blue, that the state could become a nice, pretty shade of purple.
Well, I think the opportunities are wide open. I actually just finished up a call-in program for the NAACP. We poured a lot of calls all over the state of Texas, 39,000 calls encouraging African Americans to come out and vote. As you know, the Tarrant County area is one of the is the second largest county, or third largest county here in Texas. And I think we have opportunity there. And that's one of those target areas in which we are looking to see a large number of African-American voters to come out. So I'm very excited to see what may happen in Tarrant and Dallas counties this upcoming election cycle. And so we also have a candidate who's running for Texas Supreme Court, who's from Dallas County, who is picking up a lot of momentum. That's Judge Stacey Williams. And so it's exciting to see what's going to happen in that, and coming from that part of Texas.
All right, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been remarkable. This is our first episode. I know a lot of people usually expect us in the evenings, but because of the temperament of everything, the best time for us is this 4:30 segment, so that we can get in where we fit in, and people can watch the debates, people can do their Zoom meetings. There's so much going on in this virtual life that we're living. So we thank you for taking time out of your day to talk Pretty Petty Politics. We truly appreciate you. You're always welcome back here on Mondays. So those of you who are tuning in, on Mondays, we will deal with local issues, whether it may be a local issue in your city. So if there's some things happening in, say, Detroit, we may have a Monday night. We're just talking about that area of the country. But on Wednesdays, we will always have a national conversation like the one we had today with Mr. Daniels of the Daniels Group. And to learn more about the work that he does, you can visit his website, HoustoniansForWorkingFamilies.com. And I'm sure that he'll be happy to assist you if you have any questions.
Well,
you can
let me just say something about the website there. What we're currently doing at Houstonians for Working Families is a Texas PAC. But what we're doing is a lot of work in like Tarrant County. We're doing a lot of work in Dallas County, doing work in Fort Bend and in Galveston, because there are a lot of opportunities. You have judges running. You have a guy by the name of Mark Solanas who's running for sheriff. And so there's opportunity there that exists in Galveston County. So it's exciting about the things that are happening here in the state of Texas. Of course, you know, we have a lot of phenomenal candidates here running in Harris County. And so, you know, it's all exciting to see what actually happens. I just got one question for you, July. So what's your prediction on the U.S. Senate? Do you think the Democrats, are we going to be at 50%, or will we get complete control of the U.S. Senate?
I think it's going to flip. I'm feeling it in my spirit, in my gut. I think it's going to flip. And I'm looking.
So how many seats do you think we're going to take? How many seats you got? Cal Cunningham, who's over in North Carolina, although he has some issues, but I think his poll numbers have come up a little bit.
You're breaking up a little. I missed the last part.
Cal Cunningham over in North Carolina, his poll numbers had dipped when that revelation came out.
Came out last week.
Yeah. But I think his numbers went back up, and so I mean, it's. I mean, we have opportunity. You got Joni Ernst, who's a Republican out in Iowa, who's actually down 4 points to her opponent, a Democratic challenger. So I mean, you have a lot of races in which I think we may be able to take full control. Like you said, we'll flip the Senate. Hopefully we'll be up 50-52. We just have to see how things go. But if it is 50-50, because some say that Senator Peters out of Michigan, he may be in trouble. But if it is 50-50, we have the great VP that we may have, Senator Kamala Harris, who may be able to come in and make the deciding vote.
Right. Well, we shall see. There are only 100 seats, and we have several Senate races across the country. So thank you, Trey, once again for joining us. And you're always welcome back here at Pretty Petty Politics. I thank you. It's good seeing you. I haven't seen you through this virtual space. So it's great to see you and see that you're doing well.
Thank you so much. I'd love to come back.
All righty. See you soon. Well, folks, that's it. That's episode 1, season 4, episode 1. We are really excited to be back. We want to encourage you to get out and vote. Here in Texas, polls open next Tuesday. across the country. You see, I have on, well, you can't see it anymore, but I have on my pink and green, but it's Souls to the Poll. We want you to get out to the polls. We want you to walk, strut, stroll, whatever it is that you do. But we want you to get out and vote early, the first weekend of early voting. So if you're here in Texas, that's next weekend. We hope to see you there. Now, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, Pretty Petty Politics. Like us on Facebook, Pretty Petty Politics. Follow us on Instagram, Pretty Petty Politics Podcast, and follow us on Twitter, Pretty Petty Pod. We love what we do. It takes a lot of sacrifice. There's a whole team that works to make this possible. And I want to thank that team. I want to thank you all for your support, for helping produce this show. And most importantly, I want to thank you, our viewers. I want to thank you for sharing. I know many of you will watch this later. You may share the podcast from Apple Podcasts or from The Kids Wear Crowns. You may share it on Spotify, but wherever you share it, I want you to know that we do thank you, because this work that we are doing here is very important. It is important to us because it's important for the greater community across the country. So thanks once again for tuning in to Pretty Petty Politics. And until next time, be blessed and make sure you keep your mask up and you go vote. Peace out.